am praying that whomever needs to see this video will and feel empowered to act accordingly. Greetings, dear soul. I am Crispy, and today we're going to talk about the shadow ego. Perhaps you know that Dr. Carl Jung was the creator of the term the shadow with regard to psychology. And Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making one's darkness conscious. So, first of all, please understand that I differentiate between the term ego that was coined by Sigmund Freud and the shadow ego, primarily because the ego is natural and normal and necessary. The ego is our software that comes with this hardware. If you did not have an ego, you would die within weeks or months or a few years of your birth. The ego is that which cries out for nourishment, comfort, whatever it is. However, the shadow ego represents the darkness that Jung taught us about. All the things that are either unknown to the self or hidden from the self and hidden to others. Things that are repressed, like certain memories, and suppressed, like certain feelings. These are all the territory of the shadow ego. With my Mayan embodiment, we do shadow ego work. But I am also offering that to you without any connection to your Mayan birthday whatsoever. We can work one-on-one, and I can help you shine the light on your shadow ego. The goal, as Dr. Jung prescribed, is integration, not the pushing away of things that we term bad. Now, another major distinction that I make is that the ego is not evil, and even the shadow ego is not evil whatsoever. Now, it was while meditating on the concept of quantum entanglement, which I like to upgrade to the term quantum enjoyment. There's no tangle going on between any two particles separated by vast differences or minute differences. It's not a tangle. That terminology was created around the time and with the same mindset as junk DNA. It's an old science term that does not match reality whatsoever. So I suggest quantum enjoyment. Now, one day I was meditating on this, knowing that all of everything is actually one thing. And if that is true, and I do believe it to be true more than anything else, all that exists is one thing. If the concept of evil were true, then, therefore, everything would have to be evil. You cannot have one little thing over here that's evil, because in actual fact, there is no separation between anything that exists. Primary to the physical universe was and still is consciousness. One consciousness, which I call God-sciousness. We, in our tiny little DNA Earth suit, microcosmos of the macrocosmos, we are all holy holograms. We are divine sparks. We are sacred fractals of the one God-sciousness, which is pure love and light. Now, in our modern day self-help or New Age arena, there's a concept of kill your ego. And this is just hilarious. It's such a huge spiritual ego or shadow ego. Who would even conceive of that? We can transcend the shadow ego, but if you actually killed your ego, your body would very soon follow. You would even forget to breathe. So when you hear that, just smile and nod, maybe wave and just move on. People who are shouting that cannot help you at all. And in this new age, there's a very large uprising of the spiritual ego again, which we can lump under the shadow ego umbrella if we like. The spiritual ego is a very sophisticated mask of superiority. These people trade their supposed vanity for virtue, often accompanied by virtue signaling. A lot of them will use the term spiritual bypassing. Oh, he's just spiritual bypassing, which is a form of judgment. The soul, which is what you really are, cannot judge. The soul is God-sciousness. Only the shadow ego and all of its little constituents can judge. The soul cannot. The term spiritual bypassing is really amorphous and quite inaccurate. For example, if you're walking down the sidewalk and you see someone coming who's obviously angry, and you then shift to the other sidewalk, that could be called spiritual bypassing. You made a spiritual decision to bypass the potential conflict. So just don't even use that term. Again, when you hear it, just, yeah. Only the shadow ego would use that term. So just set it aside. All of these spiritual ego, shadow ego people are trying to prove themselves superior and therefore others inferior. They might invite you to take their courses and pay them lots of money, or not, could be free. Doesn't matter. They will often judge and blame and post endless memes about their teachings. And that's fine. There's no judgment coming from the soul. Anyone can do whatever they want. This is a free will universe. And it's quite possibly true that a lot of these spiritual egos could help someone. There were numerous and are numerous cults, a lot of them yoga-oriented or whatever, where people actually gained quite a bit of benefit. And then later it was found out that the leader of the cult was doing some extremely shadow ego-based activities. So, again, the ego is crucial. It is sacred, holy, and divine. And so is the shadow ego. It is only the belief in evil, or good and bad, that creates the shadow ego in the first place. And how else is it created? Basically, in one word, trauma. Trauma creates the shadow ego. We can picture this as taught by Dr. Stanislav Grof with the concept of birth trauma, especially for those of us who were born in hospitals. That first breath could be extremely traumatic. And then the next few minutes after that would follow suit. And that first harsh experience of selfness begins to form the shadow ego. We can picture this in another way. Picture the birth of an infant, let's say at home. Let's say with a nurturing, loving environment. The doula is taking care, the father is there, possibly other siblings are there. There is warmth and love, and the infant is brought instantly to the mother's chest, and no harsh, shocking slaps occur. Then there is much less chance of birth trauma happening at all. One of my mentors, Ram Dass, talks about somebody training. So first of all, we have the potential for birth trauma, and even if not birth trauma, then we end up having little variations of trauma for the next few years, and the parents or caregivers or whomever influence the child into somebody training. First of all, they give it a name. And they reward good behavior and punish bad behavior. Another thing that occurred to me a while ago was, for example, even just changing a diaper of an infant. Picture an infant just voiding its bowels. Is that evil or dirty or bad? And if the caregiver then goes into the situation like, ew, then how is the infant to understand that they're talking about the aroma? They couldn't. So this experience of separation and the self as being bad or dirty or wrong, no, creates the shadow ego. So Ram Dass teaches that for years and years and years we undergo somebody training. And then once a person awakens to some degree, they begin to undergo nobody training, which may or may not complete itself. The completion of nobody training is obviously cosmic consciousness, or oneness, or non-duality, or the Buddha mind, or Christ consciousness, if you will, or as the Maya say, in Lak'esh alakin, I am you, you are me, we are one holy hologram, one divine spark, one sacred fractal of God-sciousness. That's my understanding of in Lak'esh alakin, which, similar to Dr. Grof and Ram Dass, was greatly assisted by psychedelics. My understanding of the Divine Mayan Dzogchen calendar and all theories like those of quantum physics, Buddhism, etc., etc., was greatly assisted by entheogens. What they do is dissolve boundaries. First of all, between oneself and other people in your lives. And then they dissolve boundaries between oneself and everything. Many of us have had oneness experiences, even through breath work, which Dr. Groff pioneered, by the way, after LSD was made illegal. Now, speaking of the Buddha, his major training, his major teaching for all of us is that there are only two things that will take you away from the Buddha mind, from oneness mind, from God-sciousness. Those two things are craving and aversion. So, normally you're in yourself, you're here, you're comfortable, perhaps meditating, and then you think, oh, I need to go check my messages. That is a craving. Or, oh, I don't want to go to work today, or whatever it is. Anything that pulls you off your center is a version of craving or aversion. Yeah. So, again, simplifying things. There is no such thing as evil. It does not exist. This also therefore means that there is no such thing as sin. It is not possible for anyone to sin in the eyes and heart of God-sciousness. In the eyes of the shadow ego, all humanity is born of original sin, and they are all kicked out of the garden for doing that thing that divided the sexes and blah, 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 blah. Now, that whole concept is not evil. It was just a concept that somehow we needed to get us to where we are now, being able to even conceptualize of transcending the shadow ego. One of the major ways we do that is by realizing nothing is evil, and therefore nobody is evil. Another factor of our current SNS world are these memes about how certain people are so whatever. All of that comes from the shadow ego. One of my other mentors, Paul Selig, has channeled for us through the guides that if we can picture, closing our eyes, we can picture a cave, and we can picture one person sitting in at the back of the cave, the one person we hate the most. What we must do is go into that cave and sit with that person and unconditionally love that person, or we are trapped in the lower room, in the small self, in the shadow ego. Ram Dass also says that on his own altar at home, he would put pictures of his mentors and a picture of someone who the shadow ego hated. And he would sit there before his eyes closed, daily meditations. He would send love and receive it for all of those pictured. This is the awareness that has arisen. This is transcending the shadow ego. I can help you with that through the Mayan calendar, which is called soul cartography for a reason. Also, in this current age of disclosure and the awareness that we, humanity, are not alone in the universe, and indeed, even in our little corner of the Milky Way, we have neighbors and brothers and sisters and uncles and great-grandfathers, and the Maya themselves have said that they were visited by 8 Pleiadians, and for more details on that, please watch here. And another thing I love to help my clients with, if we go the Mayan route, is interconnections, showing how people relate to each other based on this Pleiadian cosmic consciousness perspective. You will also receive the work booklet that has the Shadow Ego Work segment, and it also includes all of the key code words, which also means the Shadow Ego words for every other person, every other birthday, which can help enormously. And in fact, if I do cosmic couples counseling, that is the basis of what we do. If you would like to work with me without the Mayan content, that is fine. But first I must tell you that the maximum number of times I will work with you is 4. I will not do weekly or monthly or repeated over and over visits. What I do is completely other than standard psychology or counseling. We're going to work and get to the root of the issues. Now, I need to say this also. I am trauma-informed. I have a degree in psychology and a master's in teaching. I have been through lots of counseling. I've healed my own traumas, and I can help anyone do that regardless of the circumstances of their lives. Often when someone has had severe, specific trauma, it's easier to focus on than those of us starseeds and light workers and wayshowers who just have this uncomfortableness with being human to begin with and don't have a specific person or situation or circumstance that traumatized us. Many little ones perhaps. However, there are 5 major steps that can help you heal your shadow ego. This is similar, by the way, to inner child work. What we're doing now is a type of reparenting, healing the inner child, shining the light on the shadow ego. These are synonymous. And step number 1 is recognizing your triggers. Keep track of them. Find what things set you off, and keep this phrase in mind. Triggers are your treasures. Before I was talking about memes on SNS, and people love to put things out and they say, trigger warning! Well, just ignore that. Unless you want to experience a trigger that you didn't know you had. A lot of times they won't say anything like trigger warning. They'll just put out this hugely opinionated statement in combination with some image. When we start doing this work, that whole perspective and realm of criticism and othering just becomes completely uninteresting. So number 1, notice your triggers. Triggers are your treasures. Number 2 is part of that process, but developing the observer perspective. So one of the things that happens when we begin meditating and pursue it enough to break through just the chatter of the mind, which is the shadow ego, is we develop a perspective and we are able to watch and listen to the chattering. And then we know, oh, I'm observing the chattering. This can again be assisted by psychedelics and or breath work. But it is a crucial step in transcending the shadow ego, being aware that you are not your thoughts. You are not your body, and I assume you already know that. You have a body. You are your soul. Now, when we develop the observer perspective, it allows us to disengage from the emotions attached to those thoughts. If we cannot do that, we are controlled by the shadow ego, the constant thinking and the constant running commentary. One of the other things that's happened in our modern world is the concept of the law of attraction, which came out of creating your own reality by your thoughts. And then also the concept of a self-fulfilling prophecy. When we are fully engaged in the shadow ego and we feel like those thoughts are ourselves, we can get really obsessed with creating. And this is basically craving. The whole manifestation and law of attraction concept is really a shadow ego concept of I want. I envy those rich and famous people, so I want that. And if you focus on it long enough, you will get it. And the opposite is true. If you have a lot of fear in your life and you think about it a lot, you will manifest those things. The fact of the matter is you cannot stop manifesting. We are all manifesting all of the time. We are all creating our reality all of the time. Call it a holographic projection, if you will, because it's true, but we're all creating our individual realities all the time. So, step 3 is observe those projections. Now that you've developed the observer perspective, pay close attention to what you are projecting onto other people, places, or things. Projection works in a way that you blame others for your own problems. You're projecting your own inner discomfort onto others. And it also works in the way that you do to them what you say they are doing to you, for example. So, in a observer perspective from above, when a person puts out a meme on any of the SNS where they are saying, this person is stupid, these other fingers are pointing back at them, and what they're saying is, I feel that part of myself is stupid. Okay? Everything we project out is actually coming from within first. All right? So number 1, observe your triggers. Number 2, develop the observer perspective. Number 3, observe your projections. Step number 4 is to develop the 4th chakra, your heart chakra. Everything else I've described so far is the lower 3 chakras, which again is covered in Mayan embodiment. But when we move into the heart chakra, that is the center, 3 above, 3 below, and it becomes our new ground floor of reality. The heart chakra is where you will experience unconditional love. There actually is no other kind of love. The Creator, the Source, the Hunab, all that is, God-sciousness, whatever word you want to substitute, is unconditional love. So step 4, develop unconditional love for yourself. In my teachings, I summarize it in this way. Unconditional love equals unconditional forgiveness, equals unconditional trust. The ego cannot do any of those. The shadow ego, the spiritual ego, whatever you want to call it, cannot even conceptualize of these. Certainly cannot experience them. Unconditional trust means that everything that has happened and is happening and everything that will ever happen is perfect. No exceptions. So this means step 4, developing unconditional love, unconditional forgiveness, unconditional trust for the self. It is only possible to be experienced for the self, and then it naturally flows outward to all of existence. And then, step 5, building upon that, is to accept the Mayan concept of in Lak'esh alakim, which is also like Namaste, but I think a little bit broader perspective. In Lak'esh alakim means, once again, I am you, you are me, we are one. One holy hologram, one divine spark, one sacred fractal of God-sciousness. Nothing else exists except perfection. So I would be very honored in helping you to experience this for yourself.